Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Rewiring, and today we're going to be talking about some more overclocks with Deep Rock Galactic. This time we're going to be talking about the Scouts Drak-25 Overclocks, and we're going to be ranking them in our tier list here. Now, again, just like all my tier lists, let me start this off by saying that this is completely my own opinion, and if your opinion differs, that is completely fine. This is just where I rank them, and I'll be going over what each of the tiers kind of means to me. S tier, great, busted, overtuned, really strong, kind of out-competing a lot of the overclocks. A tier, great, all-around solid overclocks. B tier, above average, very nice overclocks. C tier, kind of the average overclocks, or the overclocks you have to build towards to kind of get them to work. So, they're kind of okay. Or they don't, give you a ton of advantage, but they're nice to have. And then D tier are ones that just aren't that great. I wish that they would get improved. Or you have to build very specifically for them, which kind of comes at more of a detriment to you. And our first one is Impact Deflection. Now, Impact Deflection is a very simple overclock. It just makes it so that your plasma shots now bounce. They bounce one time, whether they hit an enemy or whether they hit a hard surface. I think they also bounce on an ally, but I'm not sure about that. I haven't tried shooting my allies to see if they bounce off them. This one is actually really good. This one works really well against crowds. You can hit multiple enemies with it. If you're going with the Plasma Splash in tier 4, then you're doing AoE damage with this. And this one's just really good. There's no downside to it. It's just an all-around really solid overclock, and probably one of my favorites for this weapon. I'd put this one up high up into A tier. You can build it however you would like, but I would definitely recommend taking the splash rounds with it to just splash and just have a bunch of AoE damage. It's really good against crowds, especially if you go with a strong secondary that's really good against single targets. So if you're going with like shape shells or jumbo shells or stuff shells with the shotgun, or you're just going with embedded detonators or gas rerouting with the submachine guns. Our next clean overclock is the Thermal Liquid Coolant. This one increases your cooling rate, as well as it decreases the amount of heat per shot. So you don't overheat your gun as fast, and your gun cools down quicker than it normally would. This opens up a lot of possibilities for the Drak-25, and it's really what the Drak-25 needs, because the Drak-25 does decent damage, good damage per second, and it has a lot of bullets. The main thing that you want to keep in mind is just to not overheat it too much, and this really helps with that. And since you're already having a lower cooling rate, both per shot and just overall, you can build this gun really however you would like then. So it opens up a lot of possibilities for the gun. It's nothing like insane, but it is just what the Drak needs. So I would put this one up into A tier as well. It's a low A tier. It's not as high as Impact Deflection, and you could move it down to B tier, saying that it's just above average because it's not really necessary. You could take the exact same cooling build with this and just have a very cooling efficient gun. I like doing that too. Or you could make it so you have like higher velocity, higher accuracy. That's also a good option. And this one just feels really solid for this weapon. It feels similar to the shotgun, the Warthog's clean overclock that gives you more ammo and faster reloads, which is just what the Warthog needs, and this feels like something that the Drak just needs, or doesn't really need, but really benefits from. And then moving on to our balanced overclocks, we have Rewiring Mod. This one is kind of an interesting one. This makes it so you have less ammo overall, and you have a longer overheat duration. But every time you overheat your gun, you get ammo refunded back to you. This can be affected by both the manual heat dump, so you can do it once you hit at least 50% and then you push your reload button, or it can just be when the gun completely overheats, then you'll get ammo back. The ammo back is actually very efficient. This is probably one of the most ammo efficient builds that Scout has, if you're willing to overheat it every time you shoot it, because if you're running the cooldown add-ons, I believe, at least the level or the tier 1 cooldown, then once you overheat your gun, you're roughly only using about 14 ammo for that entire burst of bullets. So you're quite ammo efficient there because you can get a whole lot more value than 14 bullets. You are losing out on almost half of your ammo from taking this though. So it does kind of give you more damage if you are constantly using it. Oops, sorry about that, I bumped the mic. But the downside to it is that you do have to be using the gun in a particular way. So this one, when I was streaming this, people were comparing it kind of to Hipster. where it's about as ammo efficient as Hipster if you're willing to do the extra steps for it. Which it is kind of a pain to do those extra steps. This one can be good. I find it a little bit of a pain to use though, because I don't always want to be overheating my gun. I don't always want to get to the 50 to use the manual heat dump to get rid of it. It's not always the best during hordes, because if there is a big swarm of enemies, you don't want to constantly be overheating your gun. It might just take longer to fight the horde than it normally would. This one just has like some... it's kind of up and down for me. I would put this one into high B tier. I think that it's good. I do like it. I like it a lot more than I thought I would, because I figured it wouldn't be as nearly as ammo efficient as it is, but it is quite ammo efficient. It's just that the extra steps are kind of a pain for me. It feels like more micromanaging. I could see people putting this higher though. I could also see people putting this lower. I think this is going to be, it's kind of going to go either way for people. Then our next balanced overclock is aggressive venting. This one is pretty disappointing to me. This one, you lose out on ammo. Your overheat duration is shorter than normally, but your cooling rate is worse than it normally is too. This makes it so when you do overheat your gun, and you want to be overheating your gun with this one, you deal fire damage to all enemies around you, and you deal heat damage to all enemies, as well as you deal fear to all enemies, so enemies will run away from you so long as they're within 5 meters of you. Yeah, that's pretty close. I don't really like this one. If it had maybe double the range and maybe double the fire, I think it would be better. Or if it just didn't take your ammo, it'd be better. This one I've found to be the most disappointing. The only real upside I see to this one is that you can build a full elemental scout where you're running pretty much every element. You can have both fire and electricity on this gun, with the fire from this one and then the electricity from your tier 4. You could also be running cryo grenades for freezing. It's just, you can run everything that you want on this, but do you really want that? Dealing AoE fire damage sounds really good, but the fire damage is pretty low. The heat buildup on it's not that great. I found myself regularly not lighting things like Praetorians on fire, or even sometimes guards not on fire because of the distance. You don't want to be getting like super close to enemies when you're doing this, and you do have to overheat your gun, so as soon as you run up, you overheat your gun, and then you have to pretty much switch to whatever your secondary is and be using that. It's made to be used for crowds, but it puts you in a lot of danger to be used for crowds. It's also really easy to get yourself shot when I was trying this in multiplayer, because you're likely running into the crowd, and people aren't going to stop firing because, you know, you're going to run that close to them. This one, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. The fear is kind of useful, but I'd put this one into D tier. I wish that it was better. I wish that it either had more damage, more range, or didn't take your ammo. If it was any of those things, I would say it's okay. Our next overclock is the Overtune Particle Accelerator. This almost doubles your damage. You lose out on ammo by a little bit. You get more heat per shot. You also have a lot more spread both in vertical and horizontal. Your gun kind of becomes a firing cone of plasma, so your effective range is cut down by a lot when you take this, but your damage is increased by a lot when you take this. Really good against crowds. If you're comfortable at fighting at that close to medium range, which you probably will be with Scout, especially since you can always zip line away, or use your grappling hook away, then yeah, the Overtune Particle Accelerator is really good. It completely melts crowds. It can melt big things very quickly. You can't overheat your gun quickly, which is a little bit annoying, but if you take the cooling add-ons, it's not so bad. It's still going to be a little bit slower than just the regular Drak, but I mean, you do almost get double damage from that, so I think it's a fair trade-off. This one, I'm pretty happy with. I really enjoy it. I would put this one high up into A tier 2. I'm not sure if I'd put it above the impact deflection or not. It's kind of around there. It definitely does more single target damage than impact deflection does, but impact deflection can do almost as well against crowds, and it does give you extra ammo, so that's kind of nice. Both these, I would say they're interchangeable. It just depends what you want. And then we've got the shield battery booster, which is the next one. This increases your damage, increases your ammo, increases your rate of fire, and also increases your projectile velocity. But some of the downsides are it increases your heat meter, not so great. It doubles your overheat duration from 2.5 to 5 seconds. That's a big downside there. And your cooling rate is also halved, so it doesn't cool down as quick. All the positives only happen when your shield is 100% too. If your shield is touched at all, whether that be from fall damage, damage over time, getting hit by an enemy, getting hit by a friend, potentially getting hit by yourself, depending on what weapons you're using, or grenades you're using, then you don't get any upsides to this. You only get downsides. So the upsides are pretty substantial, and you can kind of mitigate the downsides like the cooling rate and the heat per shot by going with the cooling mods. That's fine, and the damage is very noticeable. You can do a lot of damage, and you can get a lot of value out of this. However, the thing is that this one is extremely difficult to use the majority of the time. If you get hit at all from an ally, you don't have this, which is pretty common if you're playing with another gunner, if you're playing with maybe a scout using the bouncy rounds, if you're playing with a driller pretty much with any of their weapons. It's not that hard to take a little bit of friendly fire damage, even though it's likely not really hurting you. You can hurt yourself with grenades, you can hurt yourself by falling. Various maps are just not good to be running this on. It's not good to run this in Fungus Bog because you're taking damage from mushrooms. Magma Core's not good either because you're taking damage from the floor. If you have shield disruption, then this overclock does absolutely nothing good for you and would definitely be D tier then. So there's a lot of things that you have to take into mind by using this. You also want to be running the faster charging shields and probably the health bonus on your suit, just so that your shields come up a bit quicker than they normally would, because if you have a bigger shield, it would take a little bit longer to go all the way up, so health also helps with that. So if you tailor your build to this, and especially if you're playing on lower difficulties, then I think this one's really strong, but on higher difficulties, it's very common to get hit by just about everything. I mean, any of my Hazard 5 guides or Hazard 5 playthrough things that you see me put up on the channel, I'm getting hit pretty often. Most of the time, I don't even care that I get hit. You know, if a swarmer runs up and hits me, or jellyfish comes up, even a grunt comes up and hits me, I usually don't care all that much. But if I have this, I'm going to care about every single thing that's hitting me, so I have to play extremely cautiously, which I usually don't with Scout all that much. So this one, I'm going to put it into C tier. It does have potential value, but with you having to line up everything to get it to work the way that it's supposed to, or at least that you want it to work that way, then it's such a pain to be using. Also, don't take manual heat dump with this. If you do that, it also breaks your shield. So yeah, just that one's off the table too. Don't take that one. And then our last overclock is the thermal exhaust feedback. This one makes it so once you start hitting 50% of your heat meter, you start dealing fire damage with each of your shot, as well as being able to light enemies on fire. This does increase your heat per shot slightly. It also increases your overheat duration by a little bit too. And this also increases more damage based on how high your heat meter is. So you don't want to be overheating your heat meter, but you want it above 50%, but not quite to 100%. So you want to be, hovering around 75%, or maybe just hovering on that 50% so you get the extra damage. This one does stack up your damage really fast against single targets, and it's very good against crowds. I mean, this one really doesn't come with much of a downside if you're fighting just little things off, whenever there's grunts or whatever it is. So you're not messing with any of that. You're only really getting a bonus from this one, especially once you get used to managing that heat bar. You get a lot of damage per second out of this, both against crowds and against large targets. It's really good at fighting like dreadnoughts and stuff too. I think I'd put this one actually up into the low end of S tier. I don't think it's as crazy as some of the other S tier overclocks that we've talked about in the other guides. It's not as crazy as something like Hyper Propellant, where you get a sniper rifle that does massive damage, or it's not as crazy as like Tuned Cooler, where you just get so much value out of your weapon. But it's probably on par with something like Persistent Plasma, where it's so nice to have, and the downside is so minimal. This one feels probably the strongest to me out of all the Drak-25, and I think it does belong into S tier, although, like I said, it's on the very low end of S tier. It's not as crazy as some of the overclocks get, but it is the best Drak overclock, I would say. But Drak has some really solid ones. Pretty much all of these right here are quite good. These two, one I really wish would get buffed, and this one, it's fine where it is, but you do have to plan it out ahead of time as to how you're going to use it. Otherwise, it's just a downside. Thanks so much for watching this. I really do appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great day. Special thanks to the supporters of this channel. These are my members over here on YouTube and my patrons over on Patreon. They get early access to videos like this, and if you would like to be a part of that, there are links down in the description. Thanks again. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.